That's 105B. It's about halfway down. And we're starting with the words Tenach Mesai. The Mishnah was talking about someone that tears on Shabbos. And it said that if he tears in anger, or if he tears his clothing because someone passed away, which is kriya, it's called tearing clothing for in mourning. So he's pater. That's considered mekalkel. He's destroying something. We had a contradiction. We have a brisa that says if he tears in mourning, he's chayiv. So we said, well, it depends. If it was someone that he was obligated to tear for because it's a close relative, then he's chayiv because that's actually constructive, because he's performing the mitzvah that he was supposed to be doing. That was something that he needed to do. That sort of tearing is a constructive work. But tearing for some other person that he didn't have to tear for, and we went through a list of if he was a chacham or if he was a good person and all of that, he should have torn anyway, or if he was there when the person passed away. We're talking about where he was none of those types of people. It was just some stranger, wasn't a good guy or whatever, and he tore his clothes. So there he's going to be pater. The Gemara says, okay, so you explained why is pater for tearing for someone that wasn't a relative. What about in anger? With the brisa says, if he tears his clothing in anger, he has a temper tantrum. He tears his, he loses his temper. He tears his clothing. The brisa says chayiv, and the Mishnah says that he's pater. How are you going to resolve that one? Going to say two different relatives or two different? What's the answer for that? So it says Tenach may say it's good what you said about his dad, the person that died. But you have a contradiction regarding chamas means anger. Regarding the anger, the Gemara says chamasei namalei kasha. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. It's not a question. It's machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. If someone does a malach, we'll see in a moment. We'll read further. We'll see. This is Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar malach shein tzrich legufa chayav hala. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if someone does a malacha that wasn't its intended purpose of the malacha, normally tearing is in order to to re-sew it in a better way, because there was a lump in the cloth. So you tear it and then you're able to re-sew it. So that would be the malacha shetzricha legufa. It's part of the constructive purpose. So Rabbi Yehuda says malacha shein tzricha legufa, even if you don't need it for its real purpose, it's chayiv. However, Rabbi Shimon malacha shein tzricha legufa pater ala. Where did we say that you're pater? You see, what is he doing over here? He's tearing clothing because he's angry. That's not the reason to tear clothing. That's not the malacha of tearing clothing. Look, when we said about putting out a fire, we said that was like the original machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, that if he needs to put out the fire because he needs coal, so then that's a malacha shetzricha legufa. But if he doesn't need coal, he just wants to save the fuel. That's why he's putting out the fire. Yeah, that's a malacha shein tzricha legufa. When you light a fire, you blow it out, and you're left with coal. So, and then the coal you would use in the metal or what is melting. But if you're just putting out the fire because you want to save the fuel, that's a malacha shein tzricha legufa, and Reb Shimon holds that you're pater. Now, over here, he's tearing clothing not because he wants to sew it back in a constructive way. He's tearing clothing because he's angry. Reb Shimon says he's pater. Reb Shimon would be the author of our Mishnah. The brisa would be Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara has just one question on this. Eima de shamatlei le Rabbi Yehuda b'mesaken, b'mekalkel mishametlei. Malacha shein tzricha legufa, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is chayiv, but that's only if it's a constructive malacha. But if it's a destructive malacha, if he's destroying something, does Rabbi Yehuda hold that you're going to be chayiv when you destroy something? see a drop more about that in a moment. Which is a big question here. How could you say that he's chayiv, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when it's destructive? Amar Rab Oven, hainami misakenu, the cover nachas ruach liyitzrai. To read that correctly. This is fixing. Why? Because he's satisfying his Yetzer Hara. He was so angry. He tore the garment in half. Now he feels so much better. So there's different girsayos here. The Gemara asks on this. The Gemara says, "Okay, gavnu mishari, is that permissible to tear garments in anger to satisfy the? Are you allowed to do that ever?" That's the Gemara's question. However, others read it that hainami misaken who. The other girsa was from the Goinim that this is also destructive, because satisfying your Yetzer Hara is and angering Hashem is something destructive. That's not considered misaken when you're doing something for your Yetzer Hara. So anyway, okay, the Gemara, either way, whether the Gemara gives an answer and then asks a question, or the whole thing is considered a question, the Gemara says, is this permissible? Vatanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar mishum chilfa bar yegra. Reb Shimon ben Elazar is quoting a Tosefta in Baba Kama. In the name of Chilfa bar yegra, he says mishum Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. We're going to have him later today again. Hamakareya begadav bechamasa. If someone tears his clothing in anger, v'mishaber kelev bechamasa, or he breaks his vessels in anger, he throws, he scatters his money in his anger. It's like idolatry. Chassidus explains because he doesn't have enough faith in Hashem. So the anger comes from lack of faith. So it's as if he worships idols. Look at how the Gemara says this. That because this is what the Yetzer Hara does. This is the trick of the Yetzer Hara's, the trick of the trade, the Yetzer Hara. He says, today he tells you, do this. Tomorrow he tells you, do that. Until he tells you to go worship idols, and then he goes and he worships idols. So that's by destroying his utensils or his clothing, that's the beginning of the process to Avodah Zarah. Amravavin Mikra, where do we see this? There should be no foreign god, and you shouldn't bow down to a strange god. It says Becha, should not be in you a strange god. What's the strange god that could be in the person? Aviyim is a Yetzer Hara. This is the Yetzer Hara. So all of this is I'm sorry?
Yeah, as a thought, normally after a person gets angry, he can let go of the issue. After some time, he cools off and he could actually fix it. Until he gets angry, he keeps it in his mind, doesn't let go of it. So the anger actually cools it off. And eventually that thought could be evaporated with a little bit of time.
So that's the nachas ruach liyitzrei, because now he feels satisfied. That would be the first pshat. That would be the Gemara's teretz at the beginning. Then the Gemara says, yeah, but you're not allowed to do it like that.
I think it's misaken because eventually, once you get to anger, there's no purpose anymore. It's already done. Okay, so that's the Gemara. That's what the Gemara says at the beginning. Then the Gemara says, but you're not allowed to let it out like this by destroying vessels and all of that. So the Gemara answers, listen to this. He's not actually angry. He's just faking it. This is just an educational procedure that he does
to instill fear into his household, to show that he's boss. Ki hada Rav Yehuda shalaf matzvaisa. Rav Yehuda tore out a hem or some threads from his clothing. Rav Acha bar Yaakov tavar mani tvir. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, he broke broken vessels already. The vessels were broken already, and he broke them. But yeah, I guess the family heard the smash, and like, oh my gosh, we better get into line, clean up the house, and put things in order. Rav Sheshas Ramile La'amse Munina Aresha. Okay, this is a little surprising. Rav Sheshas poured small fish on the head of his maidservant. Breaking the things was, I guess, harmless. But I guess the small fish didn't smell like sardines, or maybe it did. Let's see. Rababa Tafar Niktama. He broke a lid of a jug. I guess that's considered like a small thing. It wasn't really destroying something, which would be the prohibition of breaking something in anger. So this was just a show to instill fear into the house, and that's why this would be the case of Masakin, I guess. It had a certain function. This was doing something. So why does the Mishnah say b'chamasei? I guess it's the show of chamasei, I guess. Okay, Amar Reb Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Mishum bar kapara. You have to go ask mommy for a banana. You can ask mommy. Reb Shimon ben Pazi says the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi was the master. That's funny. He was the master of Agarata. He says in the name of Bar Kapara, whoever cries over an upright person, Hashem, over the death of an upright person, Hashem gathers them. He counts the tears and he gathers them. He keeps them in his storage. Shenemar, Noidi safarta ata sima dimasi b'noidecha. Halei b'sifra secha. My wanderings you counted. It's Noidi. Sima dimasi b'noidecha is you've placed my tears in your jug. Halei b'sifra secha, they're not written in your book. Okay, so Hashem keeps track of this. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav, Kol Masatzal B'Speidah Shel Chacham Rei L'Koiver B'Chayav. Very serious. Anyone that's lazy, that doesn't do a good job giving a eulogy for a Chacham, should be buried alive. I guess that means that he should die early. Shenemar V'Yikberu Eisai B'Gvul Nachlasei B'Timnas Serach Asher Bar Ephraim Mitzvain Lahargash. At the end of the book of Yeshua gives them a speech that they need to follow Hashem and not to follow the idols. Yeshua passes away, and they buried him in this place, Timnas Sarach Asher B'Har Ephraim, which is north of Har Gosh. Now, that reference, Har Gosh, the Gemara learns from that means that the mountain there was Gosh. That means that was like shaking to kill them. Why? Because they did not eulogize Yeshua enough. Tosfos over here says we don't find by Yeshua that it says Vayivko Eisei Shleishim Yom. We don't find that they cried for 30 days like it says by Moshe and Aaron. That's what he quotes, Tosfos quotes, little Tosfos Shantz. By Yeshua, they didn't do that. So they were like deserving of death. However, the Gemara goes on, Amar Rabbi Barabba, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Kol Masatzal B'Speidah Shel Chacham Ina Marach Yamim. Mida Keneged Mida. Anyone that's lazy in the eulogy of a Chacham does not live long. It's a Mida Keneged Mida. He didn't take serious the life the life of the Chacham. So therefore, his life is also, Hashem doesn't take it serious. So it's Mida Keneged Mida. In a quote from Mida Keneged Mida is Besasa, Beshalcha, Terivena. This is Yeshaya discussing the vineyard of the Jewish people. And it's basically measure for measure. A sasa is a double measurement of a sa. A sa means a measurement. By measurement, when he sends her away in his, when he argues with her, it's referring to the Hashem punishing the Jewish people, that it's besasa, it's measure for measure. Remember, Rabbi Yochanan said, is he the one that spoke about Yeshua? No. He says that he doesn't live long. The problem is that we have a pasuk. Vayavdu ha'ames Hashem kol yemei Yeshua, v'chol yemei askenim asher richu yom achar Yeshua. That the people did continue to serve Hashem and they lived long after Yeshua, until we enter the book of Shoftim, and then things go sour. Every other paragraph, every other chapter there in Shoftim, it goes from, it's like this, bad to good, and then it's ups and downs. So, but originally the people lived long. It's a problem. It says they didn't eulogize Yeshua. They weren't supposed to live long. That was a punishment. Amalei Bavloi, Rabbi Yochanan tells to Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia came from Bavel. He was Rab's uncle. They went to Eretz Yisrael to learn. I'm sorry. This is not Rabbi Chia. This is Rabbi Chia bar Abba. This is Rabbi Yochanan's student. And he calls him Bavloi. He says that Rashi tells us he came from Bavel. It's not the Rabbi Chia, the main Rabbi Chia. So this is the student. The one that reviewed Rabbi Yochanan's teachings every 30 days. Says, Yamim harichu, shanim le'erichu. They had long days, they didn't have long years. Long days means that they were successful. But long years means that they actually lived long. It means they were successful, they had happy years. If that's the case, maybe is that the blessing that we say at the end of Shema? That you should have lengthen your days. That doesn't mean that you're going to live long. Just means that you'll have good days. It says bracha shiny. When it's giving a bracha, that's a different story. Giving a bracha, that means it's a bracha. It's a bracha. It includes everything good. It's not interpreted in a limited way. Okay. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, can you ask mommy? Echad min ha'achin shemeis, if there's a group of brothers, one of them dies, Hashem should protect us. So yidagu kol ha'achin kulan, all of the others should worry. Echad min chabura shemeis tidek kol ha'chabura kula. If one of a group of friends dies, they should all worry, the whole group. And there's two versions. If it's when the great one, the greatest of them dies, or if it's when the youngest of them dies. If it's the greatest, then everyone should worry because there's a midas adin on the household. If it's the youngest, then everyone should worry. The explanation would be because when it comes to punishment, sometimes Hashem could start from the lowest. It works its way up. Okay. I think in Shulchan Aruch it says that if someone dies in the family and then there's a birth, it says it's like a fixing to the whole family. Like this thing goes away. I think that's what it means. That if someone dies, Yidek Kol HaChabura, everyone should be worried. And then if there's a simcha, then it takes away the worry. I think that's how. Okay. Kol HaMekalkel and Peturin. In the Mishnah, we said in continuation of someone that tears in anger, tears over a dead person, We said he's exempt. We said anyone that damages is exempt. All the malachas of Shabbos are all constructive. And if he does something destructive, so then he's exempt. So Tani Rabbi Kamed Rabbi Yechon is a major piece in halacha, this little piece of Gemara here, just a small piece. But Rabbi taught in front of Rabbi Yechonon. There's an exception to this rule. Someone that causes a bruise or someone that burns something, that's an exception. Normally we say anything destructive is pater. However, a bruise which is destructive, that's what a bruise is, it's destructive. He's chayev. And also, if someone burns something which is destructive, he's also chayev. Amalei puktani levra. Rabbi Yechonon tells Rabbi, go teach this outside. In other words, this is not correct. Chayev l'maver in a Mishnah. But you're telling me that you have an exception, that if someone causes a bruise, he is chayev, even though it's mekalkal, even though it's destructive. And the same with burning, there's no Mishnah that says that. Vim tim talaymar, vim Talmud laymar, vim tim talaymar Mishnah. If you want to say that it is a Mishnah, chayvel b'tzarech lekalbai umaver b'tzarech lafer. We're talking about really. Rabbi Yechonon is saying is really chayvel is pater if it's destructive, causing a bruise, like letting blood. It's Dr. Stein's picture there. That is really destructive. And when would you say that you chayev by letting? When is the case that you chayev the exception that chayvel is really chayev and burning is really chayev? That's because you needed the blood. Well, what do you need blood for? And a person, you need a human. He wants it to feed it to his dog. That looks more like a blood transfusion or something. But in the olden days, it was to feed to the dog. So, and what about burning? What do you need to? You have to burn something down. What do you gain from burning? What's the constructive side of that? So the Gemara says, "B'tzarech la'afrei, ma'aver tzarech la'afrei." You need the ash. I don't know what you need the ash for, but whatever. Maybe you need it for some ink or something. You need the ash. It's good for itching something. I think we had that somewhere. Okay. And then we have a Mishnah. The Mishnah clearly negates Rabbi Vo's statement. The Mishnah says, Kol ha'mekalkelim peturin. Anything that's destructive is exempt. And it doesn't say chutz michayvel u'maver. It doesn't say that you have exceptions to that you're chayev in those two malachas, even though it's destructive. The Gemara answers like this: Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda, Brisa Reb Shimon. So the way this begins, Rashi starts off explaining. Again, whenever we have a contradiction, we have two ways of answering it. It's a machlekes, or it's a different case. That's normally, and then you can get into other things. You can switch versions around and whatever. But the basic way is it's a machlekes. So here what we're going to do is we're going to say that mikalkel by chayvel umaver, by causing a bruise and burning, that's actually a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. Now Rashi starts off saying, I don't know where this machlekes is. But then he goes, yeah, very good. But then he goes on to say that he thinks the machlekes is, this is like a very interesting sort of logic. He thinks the machlekes is malacha shein tzricha legufa. As Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon take you through the whole Masechta Shabbos with two possible machlekes and three. One is about muktzah. Reb Shimon is lenient in muktzah. Another one is miskaven. If you're not miskaven, Rabbi Yehuda says it's chayev, Reb Shimon says it's pater. And another one is malacha shein tzricha legufa. There's three machlekes in Hilchos Shabbos, in Masechta Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon. So Rashi over here says that we're dealing with the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon about malacha shein tzricha legufa. So he says like this. Rabbi Yehuda holds malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa is chayev. How do you have a malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa by chayvel u'maver? Malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa. So Rabbi Yehuda learns that the problem is it's destructive. Chayvel u'maver is destructive. So he says, the way he explains this like this. It's destructive in the act itself. In other words, what does it mean, malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa? Although the act itself is not the actual malacha, but because there's some side benefit that's coming out of this, it is considered a malacha. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda holds that malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa, that itself is destructive, a malacha that's destructive, but because there's a side benefit that's constructive, so that's considered a malacha. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda would hold that kol mekalkalin is peturin. Kol mekalkalin is peturin. So therefore, mekalkal by chayvel u'maver is also pater. So when is chayvel u'maver chayev? When you have a side benefit. For example, you're chayvel because you need the blood for the dog. You're maver because you need the ash for some side thing. For Rabbi Yehuda, it's possible to get a malacha out of chayvel u'maver, even though it's mekalkal. How do I get a malacha out of chayvel u'maver? How do I turn it into a constructive labor? He said, well, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, anything that's on the side would be constructive, goes into the category of constructive. Like he holds that malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa. Let's take Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon, the other side is interesting. According to Reb Shimon, malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa is pater. And mekalkal is pater. So I'm left with certain malachas that will never be considered malachas. For example, chayvel. Someone causes someone a bruise. If you did it for a secondary reason not to cause a bruise, then you're pater, right? Because malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa. If you did it because you have to cause a bruise, then you're pater, because you're mekalkal. So there's no malacha according to Reb Shimon. It must be that Reb Shimon holds of what the Brisa says, where Rabavo's Brisa, Tani Rabavo taught a Brisa, that kol mekalkalim between chutz michayvel u'maver. It's impossible for chayvel to be a malacha, according to Reb Shimon, unless I say chutz, that the rule of mekalkal doesn't apply to that malacha. According to Rabbi Yehuda, I can resolve that issue by saying that a secondary objective turns it into a malacha, because malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa is chayev. But Reb Shimon that holds malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa is pater. Reb Shimon holds malacha she'ein tzricha l'gufa is pater. The only way that you could be chayev by chayvel is if I say that the rule of mekalkal doesn't apply to it. Okay, you follow that logic? Basically, let's see if I can clarify this. I have certain malachas that are destructive, burning and causing a bruise. So we know that you're not chayev for things that are destructive. You have a Mishnah that says kol mekalkalim peturin. So I have two ways out. One way out is to say kol mekalkalim peturin, anything destructive is pater, doesn't apply to those rules, to those two. Those two are an exception. Okay, applies to 37. 37 of the malachas, not to 39. I have another way out. The other way out is to say it does apply to them. So when will I be chayiv on those malachas that are, yeah. When will I be chayiv on those malachas? I'll be chayiv on those malachas if I do it in a constructive way. The problem is, if you do it in a constructive way, then you're entering into a different problem, that you're doing a malacha shein tzrich legufa. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's not a problem. Malacha shein tzrich legufa, I'm chayiv. I did it in a constructive way. It's a malacha shein tzrich legufa, no problem. Malacha shein tzrich legufa is chayiv. According to Reb Shimon, I can't answer that, because according to Reb Shimon, you did it in a constructive way. It's a malacha shein tzrich legufa, I'm pater again. So the only way to resolve chayvel and maver, that you should be chayiv according to Reb Shimon, is to say that chayvel and maver is an exception to the rule. And your chayiv always comes out that Reb Shimon turns out being more machmer than Rabbi Yehuda by chayvel and maver. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, I'm only chayiv by chayvel and maver if I did it in for some strange reason that I needed the blood to feed to a dog. Because that's when I'll be chayiv, that's when it will be constructive. According to Reb Shimon, chayvel maver is always chayiv, because it's an exception to the rule. You don't need to do it for some funny reason to be chayiv. He holds that kol mekalkelim turn doesn't apply to chayvel maver. Okay, so now it's a small line, but there was a lot that went into that. It's two Rashis over here that explain that. Now, the Gemara says, Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda Bryce Reb Shimon. Bryce is Reb Shimon that says chutz, that was Rabbi Vo's din, chutz michevel maver. In the Mishnah, kol mekalkelim pturin was Rabbi Yehuda. Because kol mekalkelim, if it's done mamish mekalkel, you're pater even by chevel maver. Okay, my time to Reb Shimon. Why does Reb Shimon say that this is an exception? Midis shechra l'misrei mila. I have a pasuk. It says, Bayayim Hashmini, it says an extra time, Bayayim. The pasuk, the Gemara learns from that I do Mila on Shabbos. I can do a bris on Shabbos. Now, the fact that I need a pasuk to tell me that means that normally it's aser. So, that means that if it wasn't this special din of a bris milah, I would not be allowed to do that. Okay, so that's his first proof that a chayvel is going to be chayiv in a regular case, and except for milah, which I have a special pasuk. That's why I need a pasuk for milah. Another reason, hachayvel bal mechayev. But if it would be a regular chayvel, he'd be chayev. Another thing is mida aser rachmana havara legabe bas kohen shma mina maver bal mechayev. Okay, the Gemara says that when a daughter of a kohen is mizana, so when she commits adultery, so her punishment is burning. The Gemara says, says that I don't do that burning, that judgment. I don't do it on Shabbos. I can't do that. Don't light a fire on Shabbos, referring to that, even though I could say that the mitzvah say of carrying out judgment should override the negative prohibition of Shabbos. I don't do that. And I say that, no, I can't come now. I'm in the middle of learning. But ask mommy if you need something. Okay, but I'm in the middle of learning now. What do you need help with? Okay, give me 1 second.
I love that kid.
That's a young Dr. Stein.
should go back to shul. Okay. So it says that you don't carry out that judgment on Shabbos. Now, 1 second. That's destructive. And according to Rabbi Shimon, it's not sort of malach shein tzrich lagufa. Whatever the case is, any burning, according to Rabbi Shimon, is destructive. From the fact that I have a pasuk that tells me that I'm not allowed to do it, that means that normally I would not be allowed to do it. And I had a chavamina to say maybe I should do it because it's a mitzvah saseh that should be doicha, the leisaseh of Shabbos. Obviously, there's a leisaseh. The pasuk tells me don't do it anyway. Rabbi Yehuda says, Hasam misakenu. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. Over there, you're right about that, that I require a pasuk. But over there, it's not because it's an exception. And Mekalkel is really chayav over there. That's not Mekalkel. That's not destructive. That's constructive. Kid Ravashi, the Ravashi, Malal Sakin Mila, Malal Sakin Eily. A person getting a bris is like fixing a utensil. That's constructive. Malal Lavashal Psila, Malal Lavashal Samanim. What's the difference if I cook lead that's used in the act of in the capital punishment of burning, where they pour lead into the person, hot lead, or if I cook herbs? Both of those are fixing. Okay. Now we say shir hamalabin. We said the measurement for bleaching cloth goes like this. It said malabin was kamlei reichav hasit kafel, a double reichav hasit. There's two measurements here. One is in between these two fingers, and the other one is from this finger to this finger. So a double from first finger to the middle finger, from the index to the middle finger. Double that is from the index finger to the thumb. So they went like this. Rabbi Yosef machmi kafel. Rabbi Yosef said, "Oh, what is malay hasit kafel? It's from here to here and back." And Rav Chia Barami machvi pashat. Rav Chia Barami showed it like this, just straight like that, because that's the same measurement. Okay, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Der Matzad Tzipar Lemigdal. Let me make this a little brighter. 1 second. That's going to work. No. Rabbi Yehuda says that tzad tzipel amigdal tzvila bayis is chayiv. If someone captures a bird into a bird cage, into like a small tower, or a deer is caught in a house, it's trapped in a house, and he does that, like he closes the door, he chases it in, closes the door, he's chayiv. Chamaim tzipel amigdal, a bird into the cage, granted, is chayiv. A deer doesn't need to go into a house. A deer can go into the garden, go into a courtyard. Bivrim are enclosures, like a barn. There's also chayiv. Doesn't need to be mamish in the house. That's also considered. In other words, he has an expanded definition of trapping. Doesn't have to be mamish into the house. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says no. Not all enclosures are equal. Ze'aklal, the rule is, depends. Do you have to go capture it again when you need it? If you have to run after it and try to trap it a second time, even though it's trapped inside this area, so then the first trapping wasn't really trapping. You have to go catch it again. You know, a bird in a cage, you put the hands in and you take it. a bird in your house, everyone agrees is not caught. It could take you hours to catch it. It flies from one corner to the other. You could run around the whole day trying to catch it. So that's not considered caught. It has to be in the cage, in the migdal. Okay. Reb Shimon Gamliel seems to be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, or is he the opinion of the Tanna Kama? We'll see in the Gemara. Let's see. Tanan Hassam, it was taught over there, Mishnah in Beya, Sechta Beya. Ain't tzadin dagim in a bivrim b'yamtiv. You can't capture fish from an enclosure on Yom Tov. I guess it means some sort of tank. And you can't feed them either. The only animals that you're allowed to feed on Yom Tov are animals that you're allowed to eat. If you're allowed to eat it, then you can also feed it. That's considered in your possession. So these fish that are not really captured, they're inside these enclosures. You can't capture them, and you also can't feed them. But you're allowed to capture wild animals and birds and to feed them. Gemara says, Ramino, 1 second. Where are these birds? These birds and these animals are in bivrim, they're in enclosures. It says, Bivrim shel chayvus shel leifus shel dagim ain't tzadimem b'yamtiv. It says you're not allowed to. One Mishnah says, oh, there's a difference between fish, wild animal, and birds. Fish, no. Wild animal, birds, yes. You're allowed to. I have another Mishnah, or this is actually a Tosefta, that says that Bivrim shel chayis v'shel leifus shel dagim, you're not allowed to. Doesn't matter. You can't feed them, so it's a contradiction. No, there's no contradiction about fish that it's usher. Contradiction is regarding birds and wild animals. So the Gemara says, Kasha chaya achaya, kasha ifas ha'ifas. The contradiction is on the wild animals, and the contradiction about the birds. Bishlem achaya achaya like kasha Rabbi de Rabbanon. I can resolve it. What's the first way that we can resolve the contradiction? Just say it's a machlekes. Rabbi Yehuda, remember, he held that it needs to be caught into the house. The Rabbanon hold that if it's an enclosure, it's already captured. So Rabbi Yehuda says this is not considered captured. He's the Tosefta. He says that it's usher. The Rabbanon, they hold that this is captured. That's the Mishnah. Elo ifas kasha. But the birds, everyone held that an enclosure is not enough for a bird. It needed to be in a migdal, in a cage. Okay, let's use our other way of answering a contradiction. It's a different scenario. This one's talking about where it's an enclosure that has a top on it. This is an enclosure that doesn't have a top. That's hardly considered an enclosure for a bird. It can fly right out. The Gemara says, 1 second. That's what you're going to tell me? This one is chayev because it has a top on it, and that one's patur. It doesn't have a top. But we're talking about the same enclosure that you're talking about the whole time. The house has a top. And everyone agreed that a bird in the house was not considered caught. In a house, it's not caught. So what are you telling me? It has a top. It's considered caught. A top on an enclosure isn't considered caught. Because a house has a roof and it's not considered caught. Amar Rabbi bar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Rabbi bar Rav Huna, rather, Rabbi the son of Rav Huna says that the Tosefta that says that it's usher. And our Mishnah that also says that it's usher to feed in the Tosefta. And you're not allowed to capture it even though it's already in the beaver, in the enclosure. In the Mishnah that says that if it's in a house, it's not considered caught. It needs to be in the actual cage to be considered caught. That means if you in the house and you put it in a cage, then you captured it on Shabbos. That's talking about betzipar dror, askin lefishim enam kabelas maras. That's talking about a special bird. The Steinsaltz says it's a house sparrow. That even though they come into the house, but they go out into the field and they can live anywhere. They can't really be contained in the house. I saw something. I think they use them in China for to say when to plant the rice or something. So they leave a certain window open the whole time, so that a sparrow can come back into the house, and when it comes back and starts building its nest, then they start planting. So anyway, it's not really.
Rabbi,
I'm sorry.
is there any question with bird houses?
According to this, if a bird is in a cage, then it's already captured. The problem is, if you let it out of the cage, can you then put it back in? But we're learning here from our Mishnahs that you can't, because a bird flying around the house is not captured. However, what we just said now is that that's talking about a wild bird. But a bird that comes back, according to this, and that goes, then it could be considered captured already, even when it's in the house. That's what we're saying right now. This is where we're holding. The Tana Rabbi Shmuel, why is it called Gerar? Gerar means freedom. It lives in the house just like the field. Gemara says, once you've established this, that you're dealing with different types, chaya, nami like kasha. You can also answer chaya. You don't have to say that it's a different. We had a contradiction about the animals. We said, well, the animals, it's not a problem. We had a deer in the house or in the pen or in the barn. That was a machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon. So we said that the Mishnah and the Brisa is a machlekes. You don't have to say that anymore. You could say, like kasha, ha biber gadol, ha biber katan. It depends on the size. Hechidami biber gadol, hechidami biber katan. Amravashi kalecha durat basrei matale b'chad shechia biber katan v'idach biber gadol. What's considered a small enclosure? If I can get it in one lunge, I lunged, and I grab the animal. If I can't do it in the first time because it has where to escape to, so then that's considered biber gadol, and that's not considered caught. Inami kalecha denafel tula. I'm not sure what the explanation for this is, but it says what's considered biber katan. If the shadow of one wall goes onto the other wall, then it's considered a biber katan. I'm not sure what that has to do with trapping. Why do you use that measurement? There must be an explanation why shadows and trapping, what the inami kalhecha deleka ukti biber katan vidach biber gadol. If it has corners, then the animal could get away. If the animal can get away, then it's not considered caught. Okay. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said we have a rule. Anything that still needs to be caught is not considered caught, and it's pater. Now, if you close off an area that it can't escape from, it still doesn't mean you trapped it, because you still have to go and catch it a second time. You have to keep continuing to close off areas, right? You got it in the house. Okay, now let's contain it in the room. Okay, now let's contain it in a cabinet or a cage. Each time you have to keep catching it. So only the last time would be considered caught. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halacha Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, this is a statement from Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef learned by Shmuel and he learned by Rav. Rav Yehuda learned by Rav and Shmuel. Rabbi Yosef must have learned by Rav Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda that the halacha is like, in the name of Shmuel, that the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Amalei Abaya halacha machlal de pligi. If you say that's the halacha, what you probably mean is that there's a machlekes, and we don't go like the other opinion. Now, we just said before that when something is enclosed, we made a distinction between what type of enclosure it was. Was it a large enclosure or a small enclosure? When do we say that he's chayiv for capturing that's in a small enclosure? For a large enclosure, he's not chayiv. That was in the opinion of even the Chachamim. That means that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds that only in a small, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would say only in a small enclosure. The Chachamim say only in a small enclosure. There we go. There's no machlekes. Why are you telling me that Allah is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel? If even the Chachamim that said an enclosure is considered caught, that's only a small enclosure, which is the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Then you come along and you tell me Allah like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. No one argues. When you tell me the halacha, it sounds like there's a machlekes. What's the difference? That's the halacha. Whether there's a machlekes or not, that's the halacha. Amalei, Gemara Zimroisa Tehei. When you teach things, it's just to sing it. So you tell me that that's the halacha. Is that just a song? There has to be a difference. For some reason, Rabbi Yosef wanted that the halacha should be established in the name of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and not just to say that that's the halacha naturally because the majority hold like that. He wanted it to be like a statement. And Abaye was saying, why does he need to that statement? It sounds like you're just making a song if there's no difference in because the halacha is like that because the majority holds like that. The Chachamim hold like that. Kitana Rabbanan. Stood in a brisa, Hatzad Tzvi Suma V'Yashin. Someone hunts a deer, the deer is blind or the deer is sleeping. So chayiv, he's chayiv for that. That's considered hunting. I said hunting, I shouldn't say hunting, I should say trapping. Trapping. Hunting sounds like he shot it. This, he trapped it. Chiger V'Zaken V'Chayla. If he's lame or he's old or he's sick, then he's pater. The assumption here is that the explanation is because it's already trapped; it can't move. Amalei Abayler of Yosef Abayis says surveys Mashnahani. What's the difference between the two? This one is asleep; it can't move. This one is sick and it can't move. What's the difference? Gemara says he answers Hani Avid l'Rabuya, Hani le'Avid l'Rabuya. This one, if it was awake, it would be able to run away, and it has potential to run away. This one doesn't even have potential to run away. But at 1 second, I have a brisa that says that if it's sick and you capture it, you're chayiv. Rav Sheshes is like kasher. Rav Sheshes says, no, there's two types of sick. There's chayla machmas ishta and chayla machmas uvtana. This is the type of sick when you're pater, is when it's so drained because it was running all day, because it was being chased, and finally it collapses. So then it can't move. Other one is it's sick, yeah, it's sneezing away, whatever, I don't know, it has a fever, it's sick, but this thing can still outrun, a human. So that's not considered, that's, if you do capture it when it has a fever, that's considered captured. If you capture it when it can't run because it has, it's drained from running all day, so that's not considered capturing. It was laying there. It's in exhaustion. Okay, that's how we resolve a contradiction. If someone hunts grasshoppers, gazin, I saw the Steindl translates as cicadas. Is that how we pronounce it? Cicadas. There's these very interesting insects that they can stay underground for like 17 years. And then they come out in swarms. And it's a feast for the animals that are around. So he says that gizin is onomatopoeia, because it makes the sound of gzzz when they come out. So that's his translation there. Tzira is this. I think we had it. Did we have it yesterday? Yeah. In the parsha, V'gamas Tzira Shalach. There's a wasp. That we had it in the Haftarah, I think. in the Haftarah, that Hashem said he'll send the wasp to fight. I saw one of the commentaries in that old, the old Sansino Tanakh, that yellow and black Tanakh. It has many volumes. So the old one, they used Christian scholars as well, and then they Judaicized it in the 1980 version. They fixed it up, but I think I saw in an old one once. It said, I'll send the wasp to help you fight the war against Canaan, because the Egyptian soldiers, on their shields, they had a picture of a wasp. And what it was referring to the Egyptians. Anyway, the comment over there, the editor, Rabbi A. Cohen or whatever his name, he says, it's very ingenious, but nevertheless, that's not the pshat. Okay, so if someone captures these wasps or these mosquitoes on Shabbos, he's chayev. Divrei Meir has this interesting opinion that you're chayev for capturing, even for things that have really no necessity of usage. You don't use the skins of any of these. Chachamim say no. You only chayev if you capture things that are actually game, that are used for, that have some use when you capture them. I see. Okay. Tanya Idach, we have another brisa. It says, if someone hunts, let me see if I move to this side. So we'll change the sunlight behind me isn't good. Let me try that. Maybe a little better. Maybe better. It's the same thing. Half of it is too bright. Let me try this. Sarah, can you adjust the lamp over there to shine? If the lamp is shining this way, then it will be, the picture's better. Okay, I can't really move like this. Okay, it is what it is. Just push it closer, John. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so we're holding here. Thank you. We're holding here that another brisa. If it's the time of the dew, so when the dew is out, then they become like paralyzed. So he's potter because he didn't really capture them. They were just laying there captured. The time of the heat, then he's chayev. That's when they fly around. Elazar ben potter. Rabbi Elazar ben Mahavai says that if they are coming in swarms, then he's potter, because they're just ready to be eaten. They're just hanging around. That's not considered capturing. Now, Iboilu, Gemara's a question. What's Rabbi Elazar ben Mahavai saying? Very interesting. He said a statement, but we don't know what he's talking about. He says, Elazar ben Mahavai, Reishakai, Aseifakai. Is he talking about limiting the patur of B'shas Hatal? In the cold, they're paralyzed. Rabbi Elazar ben Mahavai says, and so therefore you're potter, right? If you capture it then, because they're captured anyway. They're just laying there. They can't move. Rabbi Elazar ben Mahavai says that's only if they're in swarms. But even when they're paralyzed in the cold, if it's not in swarms, then you're going to be chayev. So he's limiting the exemption. Or maybe he's a seifakoi. Maybe he's saying in the heat, you're chayev. However, in the heat, you're not always chayev. Sometimes you're potter, even in the heat. When there's swarms, you're potter. As he's limiting the chiyuv or he's limiting the exemption, the patur. That's it's unclear what he means. So the Gemara says, Tashma, come on, listen. Another brisa that will bring some clarity here. It's a tesefta. Someone hunts grasshoppers if it's in the cold, in the time of the dew. So then he's potter. If it's the time of the heat, then he's chayiv. Unless ben Mavayomer, he adds an extra word in the brisa. It says, Afilu b'shas hasherev. Even in the heat, it could be that he's going to be potter. In my makalchas abayis, he's going to be potter. Okay. Okay. So we know that's a limitation on the heat. It's going to be, even though in the heat, they can fly around and you have to capture them, but if they're in swarms, even in the heat, you'll be exempt. Okay, the Mishnah says, if a deer enters the house and someone closes the door. He didn't chase it into the house. It entered the house. He just closed the door. It's chayiv. If two people close the door, p'turim. Then it's chayavim. If one person couldn't have closed it, and it took two people to close it. So we had this Gemara before. Shnayim shasu is p'turim only if, it's a big machlokes, but according to some opinions, only if it required only one person to do it. And if nevertheless two people did it, then you're going to be potter. But if it took two people to do it, so then you're going to be chayiv. And Reb Shimon says, no, you're always potter, even if it took two people. If two people did it, malacha only works, the chiyuv of malacha is only if one person does the malacha, even if it's impossible for one person to do, and it requires two people. It's a huge door, something it takes two people to close. Maybe they had to roll a rock in front of the door to capture it. Like the shepherds have to roll a rock off the well. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar Shmuel Atzadari b'Shabbos Yinachayv Ad Sheyachnisenu Legurzik Yishlei. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says the name of Shmuel. Someone captures a lion on Shabbos. He's only chayiv if he gets it into the cage. Otherwise, it's going to break free. Just because you say, oh, I caught it. Was that thing, I caught a bumblebee. My mommy's going to be so proud of me. Ooh, ouch, the bee stung me. So that doesn't mean you really caught it. It's going to break free. So you put it into you close the gate. That's not a watching for a lion. Okay, now this Mishnah says, Yashav echad ala pesach v'lei milu, Yashav hasheni milu, hasheni chayiv. Do we have to stop at 7:45? 7:45? We have to stop. 7:50? 7:50. Okay, so maybe we can make it to the end of the parak. If someone sits on the gate, on the doorway to this house where the animal is, but he doesn't fill up the doorway so the animal can still escape. So it's not fully captured. However, Yashav Hasheni Malu, so another person comes and sits there. Now the doorway is blocked. So Hasheni Chayev, the second person is the one that really did the capturing because the animal could have still escaped. Yashav Arishan ala Pesach Milu. Let's say the first person was at the doorway and he filled up the doorway. So he captured. The second person came and sat right next to him. So now you have two gates to the same, blocks to the same door. Even though the first person then left, so who's capturing the deer now? The second person. Nevertheless, Harishan Chayav Hasheni Pater. The second person is going to be Pater. Even though right now he's the one that's there, he's Pater. What is this similar to? It was an interesting example, which is not so clear. It says, L'noyel espeisai l'shamrei. Take the baby. Someone that locks his house to guard it. And it turns out, it turns out that there is a deer that was captured inside of it. So, we have to explain this, that the deer was tied up inside of it. Otherwise, when he closes the door to his house, he's capturing. Trying to say that it was captured already. There was a deer tied inside the house and he closed the door. What did he do? The deer was tied anyway. So even if the deer then gets released, but when he closed the door, it was tied. So he didn't do any capturing. The same thing here. When the second person comes, the first person had already captured the deer. Now the first person left, but already he didn't capture it. It was captured when he came. That's what the Gemara is saying. The Mishnah is saying. Amar Rabbi Rabbi Barashi Amar Rav. Rabbi Abba says the name of Rabbi Barashi and the name of Rav. Nichnas alei tzipar tachas knafav. If a bird goes under his cloak, his garment, so it just flies right in. He's allowed to sit there, and he doesn't need to open it up. It's sort of captured itself. He doesn't have to release. He's just holding it. He's just staying there. It flew in, he can stay there. Okay. Maser Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Nachman Yitzchak asked the question. Yashav Rishon HaPesach Malu Ba Sheni Yashav B'tzidaf B'Shamar Rishon V'Halach Lai Rishon Chayv Sheni Pater. The first person sits down by the doorway. That means he blocks the deer from escaping. Comes along the second person and also sits down over there. So we say the second person is Pater. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak understands. 1 second, let me do that. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak understands that Pater doesn't mean that he's allowed to. Pater means that he's exempt. So the second person really has to let it go. If that's the case, then why do you say that if a bird flies into your cloak, you're allowed to just sit there? Granted, you'll be pater because you didn't do the capturing, but the fact that you're holding on to it as captured makes you is actually an isser. Okay. So the Gemara says, lie, that's not the case. Pater umutter. When we said that the second person is exempt, that doesn't mean that he's exempt, but it's aser. He's exempt and it's mutter. It's even logical because the Mishnah actually brought an example. It says, what is it similar to? The fact that we brought this example, the fact that we brought an example is telling me that it's mutter. Shema mina. Okay, that's a good raya. Ikadarmi, there's some that said this exactly the opposite, and it comes out with the same conclusion though. Some said, Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Afana Nami Tanina. Instead of saying, 1 second, how come you're saying that you're allowed to just leave this bird inside your cloak? How could you say that? We have a mission that says you're pater. That means probably that it's aser, because pater aval aser. That was the way the first Gemara did it. Now he says that, you know what you're saying, I have a Mishnah that supports you. How does the Mishnah support? It says like this. Even though the first person left, Harishan chayev asheni pater. The Rishon is the first person that sat in the doorway. He's the one that's chayev for trapping. My love, pater and mutter. See, you're allowed to do that. The second person was allowed to sit down when the first person was there and to continue waiting there. Gemara says, no, you have no raya from the Mishnah. The Mishnah could mean pater aval aser. The Mishnah could mean that he's actually exempt. Hamidik stani seifa, but from the fact that the seifa says, what was that whole example for? That there's a deer that's already trapped in your house and you just close the door, which we said that should be mutter. That's telling me that it's totally mutter. So that comes out that Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak is saying that you have a raya that if the bird flies into your cloak, that you're exempt. And not only exempt, that you're allowed to sit there and hold it there without opening up the cloak. Omer Shmuel, kol pater the Shabbos pater avalas levar mahanitlas the pater mutter. Shmuel says the expression on Shabbos that says that it's pater, you're exempt, that means that it's aser. You're exempt, but it's forbidden. That's what it means, exempt. However, there's 3 exceptions. And there's 3 exceptions where pater actually means that it's mutter. Shagi, can you take this to the other room? So what are those exemptions? The first one, chadaha. The first one is what we just said. Mimai de pater and mutter. How do you know that you're totally, not only are you exempt, but it's even mutter? If you close the door and there's a deer that's tied up inside, you're not chayav for capturing. It was already captured. So you see, that's a raya, even though it says pater, but we know that it's mutter as well. V'idach, what's another one? Hamafis morsa b'Shabbos. Someone opens a blister on Shabbos to let the pus out. If he wants it to be able to be an opening, to remain an opening, so then he's chayev because he made it an opening, which is a problem. It's considered like a vessel because it will release, it will open and release. If he just wants to let out the pus, then he's pater. We're saying that pater means pater, and he's actually allowed to do it. It's interesting, Rashi, mafis mevakeya morsa quatura. I think it means like cauterize. He's opening, I don't know if Dr. Stein will agree with that. Yeah. He's opening up the skin. Could be that he doesn't want it to grow back. Could be that depends. Okay. So mimai, the pater umutter. How do we know? Shagi, you have to take this to the other room because it's too loud. How do we know that you're mamish mutter? The Tanan, because we have a mission that says machet shel yad. If there's a needle, little bas akaitz, that it's used to take out a thorn. We said that was allowed. So you see, you're allowed to move the needle on Shabbos. It's not muktzah. So obviously, you're allowed to take things out. You're allowed to open. You're allowed to take out the splinter. You're allowed to take out the pus. V'idach, another one is atzad nachash b'Shabbos imisasik b'shleish pater. Someone hunts a snake on Shabbos. If he's trying to make sure it doesn't bite him, so then he's exempt. Im l'refuah, but if he wants it for some sort of medicine, then he's chayiv. So we say that when he says if he doesn't want it to bite him, he's exempt. Mimai de pater mutter. How do you know that means that he's actually allowed to do it? It says the Tanan, because I have another mission that says that he's allowed to. It says kaifin karal and never shvil shlei tachas b'kaira, val tzoya shel katan val akrav shlei tishach. You're allowed to put a utensil, a pan, turn it over, to put it on over a candle, not to put it out, but so that the candle doesn't burn the ceiling. To cover over excrement so that it doesn't smell, and to cover over a scorpion so that it doesn't bite. You see that you're allowed to cover over things that are dangerous, that you didn't want for actually trapping. You just want it so that it doesn't harm you. Okay, Hadron Lachayrik, next parak is Shemina Shratzim. Interesting parak. It's the laws of Chayla and other things.
Thank you.